Hi, I'm Louis Paul. This is The Colors of Prog, Season 3, Episode 16. I'm going to be talking about three albums that aren't discussed much. Two from the 70s and one fairly new. So, first off, we have the band Illusion and Out of the Mist. This is from 1977, although you probably wouldn't note it from, it looks like an early 70s album, doesn't it? Firstly, a little background. Did you know the band Renaissance originally was formed by and consisted of Keith Relf on vocals and guitars and Jim McCarty on drums and vocals? Both of them are from the Yardbirds. Yes, the Yardbirds. Louis Sinamo played bass, and he was in Peter Frampton's pre-Humble Pie band, The Herd. John Hawken was first in the Nashville Teens, and then he played with the Straws before moving on to other bands. And he played keyboards, a variety of keyboards. And Keith Relf's wife, Jane, shared the lead vocals with Keith. Now, interesting, Paul Samuel Smith, also of the Yardbirds, produced the album for them. So that was the first Renaissance. And the first Renaissance had a mix of influences from classical music, folk, and a whole lot of psychedelia. Their 1969 debut album, just called Renaissance, was followed with 1971's Illusion. Then they disbanded, and there was an entirely different lineup, this time featuring Annie Haslam on lead vocals and no other members of Renaissance. Everyone was new, including Annie. That version of Renaissance debuted in 1972 with the Prologue album. And so we cut forward to 1977's Out of the Mist, and the original lineup returns of Renaissance as Illusion again. Oddly enough, unfortunately enough, while preparing to put music together for the album, Keith Relf died tragically. John Knightsbridge was added in for guitars, and then they had a new drummer as well, Ed McNeil. So we had Jane Relf, Jim McCartney, Louis Sinamo, and John Hawker, now adding Minnie Moog, Mellotron to his usual array of Fender Rhodes, pianos, and organs. Possibly more progressive sounding than the Haslam-led Renaissance at the time, there's still a mix of classical British folk and post-psychedelia on the 7 songs that appear on this Illusion album. And probably, I would say it's better than anything that appeared on this band's Renaissance albums when they were called Renaissance. It's a pleasant listening experience for fans of female-fronted bands with strong vocalists from this period. The other version of Renaissance would rise to acclaim with 1973's Ashes Are Burning and later Scheherazade, among others. Illusion would release a self-titled follow-up just called Illusion in '78. But that record just didn't do much for them. They planned a follow-up called Enchanted a Caress, but that wouldn't surface until 1989 and mostly consisted of demo songs. Illusion would then return as Renaissance Illusion, trying to reclaim their name and fame, with Through the Fire. Now, they recorded that in 2001 on the Spiral label, which I believe might have been their own label, but it wasn't released until 2017 on the Angel Air label, and then quickly disappeared. But if you ever found that, you probably have quite the collector's item. So that was Illusion Out of the Mist. Next, Rick Wakeman. Rick Wakeman. This is called Criminal Record, 1977. Recording during the sessions for the Yes album Going for the One, Chris Squire and Alan White also appear on 3 of the 6 songs. There's only 6 songs on this recording, and so some of them are quite long. It's Rick Wakeman, right? Chris Squire and Alan White last appeared guesting on Wakeman's first debut solo album, The Six Wives of Henry VIII. The Squire and White contributions are 3 of the best tracks on this Wakeman record. They sound very much like Yes-type songs, but they're instrumentals. Actually, everything on here is instrumental except for one vocal, and I'll get to that in a moment. So anyway, this is a concept album about the criminal justice system. If you read any interview with Rick Wakeman in the past 10, 20 years, even more recently, he's very much into concept albums because he's done so much work. He's recorded so much solo work, worked with other artists, was in and out of Yes for decades. He likes something to feed his thought process and give him a reason to record. So he said, I'll make a record about the criminal justice system. Now, like he did in Going for the One, Wakeman utilizes multi-track grand pianos, Fender electric pianos, Moogs, mini Moogs, pipe organs, church organs, and nearly every synthesizer imaginable. So you kind of get it. It's well recorded and produced by Rick Wakeman. Side 1's Crime of Passion, which is the second song, could easily have appeared could easily have been a basic demo for a Yes song, and it goes on like that. Pretty much, a lot of this stuff sounds like, hey, this sounds like a Yes song, but it wasn't. But it sounds like while they were working on Going for the One, Rick Wakeman decides I'm going to make a record in the same place in Switzerland, Lausanne, Switzerland, where Rick Wakeman had a recording studio where they were working on Going for the One. He grabbed 2 of the guys from Yes and said, look, I'll appear on this. The one stumble is called The Breathalyzer. It's about a 5-minute song. It's got about 2-minute vocal contribution by a gentleman named Bill Odie, who was from The Goodies, a British trio of comedians or satirists, and it's spoken word. It's not really sung. It's sing-speak, and that kind of arch Monty Python thing. It's about one thing or another, and it's over. But it's kind of a misstep. What could have been a really enjoyable all-instrumental album was kind of marred by that. It's like I wish Wakeman decided not to include that vocal and just cut it. The last track, Judas Iscariot, that's what it says, features the local Swiss choir and orchestra from the local church. So it's quite a lot of members. It's a huge orchestra. What were they called here? Gosh, I can't tell you, folks. There's many basses, many tenors, altos, sopranos. The choir alone is numerous in the amount of people. Otherwise, out of the seemingly dozens of solo albums, not including, as I said, contributions to others' work or his own collaborations with people like Hummingbird with Dave Cousins of the Strawbs, it's probably one of the better I have a lot of Rick Wakeman solo recordings. Original works with his sons, work he's done with Oliver Wakeman, reimaginings, reinterpretations of songs he contributed to when he was in Yes, and soundtracks. Ken Russell films, I believe Crimes of Passion, and so many others. And but this is one of the nicer ones. It's kind of new agey, more classical than the usual progressive rock that some of you may be lean toward or interested in. But Criminal Record's a pretty good one, so I recommend it. Next, this is a mystery. The band is called Sospetto. The album is called Segni, Misteriosi con il Sangue, Dipinto sul Muro, which translates roughly into mysterious signs with blood painted on the wall. It's from 2012. Now, Sospetto is not an Italian band. They're German. And it's a German composer, multi-instrumentalist named Christian Rezachak. And allegedly he's assisted by a gentleman named Hobo Jeans, which I presume to be a pseudonym. Very much in the dark goblin vein of moody music, except the films do not exist. This is what Sospetto do is they create music for imaginary films that don't exist, or imaginary television shows. And is a touch of composer influences, like a little bit of Morricone and Louis Bacalov. And it's the ideal background, I think, for those who like their Italian thrillers and giallos, those Italian murder mysteries. Sospetto turned out an album a year, 3 in 2015 alone, before the last one in 2017 called Il Sono Eterno. The Christian Rezachek then started a Tangerine Dream-like band called Pan Scan. And they're all like some of the Sospetto music. You can find it on Bandcamp and YouTube, as well as Pan/Scan. And Pan Scan has released 3 albums on the Cinesploit label. And A Far Distant Corner of Nothing special is the most recent from Pan Scan from late 2022. But I like this Sospetto. It's there's a few bands out there. Oh, here's the inner sleeve. There's a few bands out there that do purely instrumental music in that kind of quasi-goblin vein, and some are more successful than others, and then others not. But this is one of the better ones. So they have quite a body of work. There's about maybe 10 tracks in total, 10 to 12 tracks in total, split amongst each side. And it's really well done. It's a really nice recording. So again, if you like that kind of sound, I highly recommend it. So that's pretty much today's show. Thank you for listening to The Colors of Prog. I'll be back.